All right, we are back again for a special episode tonight. I'm here with Malcolm. I'm Josh, and I'm a little under the weather. I also shaved my beard, if you couldn't tell, because the Bruins fucking lost because they stink. How you feeling over there in Colorado, Malcolm?
Oh, the leaves are turning. I feel like shit.
I don't think the leaves are turning. I don't think that's true at all.
Oh, they're turning, dude. They're blowing. They're blowing everything. No.
Sounds like someone I know.
Yeah. You really did a number on me on that Instagram post.
Yeah.
A closet homosexual, apparently.
Yeah, people seem to get a kick out of that.
Yeah.
Thank you for everybody.
Maybe I will be gay, and then it'll be a hate crime. How about that?
That's true. That's true. This is your plan all along.
Yeah.
So thank you, everybody. What we're talking about is a post that was on Instagram that you can go and look at right now at scam_podcast on Instagram and Twitter. If you want to email us, podcastscam@gmail.com. We will be back on Friday with another one of our regular episodes. But today, we are talking all about mysterious celebrity deaths. And I say that slowly because my brain is like have you ever seen that commercial when you were a kid and like they cracked the egg and put in the frying pan, like this is your brain on drugs?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I feel right now because I've been spending the last week staying up all night, listening to countless podcasts, watching endless, ridiculous YouTube videos. Half of this podcast is going to be me shitting on fucking people that made these videos and stuff. It was terrible. There was one, all right, I gave it a chance. It was 9 guys on a podcast talking about one of these things.
9
guys. Yeah, 9 guys. It was like a guy gangbang. It was, and the guys were talking over each other. They had kids running around the background. He's like, hold on, my kids. He's like, hey, Travis, shut the fuck up. Like, I'm terrible.
Already embarrassed having 2 people on this.
No kidding.
Zoom. And the real podcast people are like, I don't like this Zoom. It's like, fuck you.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't, and it was impossible to understand what the fuck they're talking about because they're all talking. They're like separate conversations at the same time. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? And then I listened to another one where the intro is just a girl for about 10 minutes telling you to donate to her GoFundMe so that she can get to go on tour for singing or something. And I'm like, what? People begging money now? Like, what are we doing?
Everybody needs to donate to my GoFundMe too, and also make the GoFundMe.
Yeah, make the GoFundMe, donate to the GoFundMe.
Yeah.
All right, well, enough about that. We got a lot to talk about, so let's jump right into it. So we got some feedback from some people online who they wanted to hear from. This is what we landed on. These are going to be the people we discuss in this episode. We have Biggie and Tupac, Jimi Hendrix, Bruce Lee, Kurt Cobain, Marilyn Monroe, and Princess Diana. And at the end, if we have time, we're going to do a little bit about Natalie Wood and Brittney Murphy.
Yeah, so for the listeners, I tried just, I asked Josh, I'm like, hey, send me some shit about Princess Diana. So I started listening to this podcast. I'm like, did you listen to that thing? And he goes, oh, no, I didn't listen to that one. This thing, the most boring shit I've ever seen. He's talking about how her death has to do with something, because she was hot. She looked good in the bikini.
Wait, what?
she's banging this dude from Pakistan that's tied into the Saudi Arabian family and all that shit. But this guy was so incredibly boring. And like in between all this, he's like nonchalantly mixing in Omaha steaks. It's fucking.
All right, let's stop shitting on people because I'm sure that people could come and shit on us. But again, if you look at
I'm not saying I wouldn't mix in Omaha steaks, but I don't want to fucking hear it.
Omaha steaks.
At least give me a heads up. Because he went right into it, and I was like, at first I thought he was talking about something with Princess Diana.
I guess we can cross them off the list forever sponsoring the show. So again, if you're looking for more information, we're not going to do super deep dives on every single one. We're just going to give you the base, what happened. We'll give you some things that people have discussed as possible, conspiracies, if you will, about what happened. And then we'll give our opinion on it. And we'll probably spend about 10 to 15 minutes on each one. Nothing insane. If you're looking for deeper dives on each of these topics, you can find a ton on all my research was done on YouTube, Wikipedia, and different podcasts on Apple and Spotify. For the Biggie and Tupac, we're going to talk about them first. I highly recommend. There's a podcast called Last Podcast on the Left. They do a 3-part. It's about 7 hours on fucking Biggie and Tupac, and they do a great job. But I'm not going to just recycle what they said. I took what they said and researched a little bit more because they kind of just read it to you. They're kind of just like, they have like a scripted show where they read you, some stuff they looked up. So
yeah.
So we'll start with that one. First of all, what is your memory of Biggie and Tupac, Malcolm?
I mean, when he died, I was fucking, when Tupac died, it was 6. So, but I've listened to all his music. He's like my favorite artist growing up. As far as like his death and all that, there's all the shit about him being alive, and then him being tied into Machiavelli, and then the number like 13 and all this shit.
So what do you remember about like the life of Notorious B.I.G.? How
crack,
were you in with that? Selling crack.
So crack when LA got killed.
So I was same for me. I was 7. So you were 6. So I was 7 when they died. So I wasn't really like a big hip hop guy when I was still in first grade. But as I got older, started listening to more different kinds of music, listening to hip hop. And obviously, I fell in love with the music right away because they're both fantastic artists. I was more of a Notorious B.I.G. guy. Actually, last night after I did some of his research, I was just listening.
See, I wasn't.
See, that's the thing I was gonna say. I felt like knowing you well enough that you were more of a Tupac guy.
But I think that's because Tupac was more of a well-rounded individual. He had that Black Panther background, and
he had some good. He was also good actors. If you watch,
different aspects of him. Yeah, Juice was great.
So let's get into that. So first, like I said, I was listening to both their music last night, and the Ready to Die album by Notorious B.I.G. is an absolute classic. If you haven't listened to that, you should listen to it. It's crazy.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So it's crazy because I was listening to it and I was like, okay, this was like a gigantic hit song. Okay, this was a gigantic hit song. And I was like, wait a minute. I thought in my brain for some reason, I knew they were all separate because I know all the words to all these songs, but I'm like, for some reason I had them like mixed as one song. So that song, Big Papa, right? This is all on the same album, Ready to Die, right? So you got the Big Papa song, and then you have hold on, let me find the whole album listing here. You have Juicy, you have which is the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. Yeah. So those are 2 separate songs. For some reason, in my brain, they're 2 different ones. You have the Give Me One More Chance, which is like the Murder Inc. took that beat later, and Ja Rule and Ashanti have the song. You have that Warning song where he's like, "Who the fuck is this? Paging me at 9:46." Yeah. And then Who Shot You, the song that Tupac will take personally, which we'll get to. So I mean, those are all in one album, and there's another one I'm missing, Hypnotize, which is the So
yeah,
those are all in one album. That was like right before he died. So I mean, that's pretty spectacular. I don't think Tupac had the hits like that. Tupac had some good features and stuff, but anyways, music aside, let's get into their mysterious deaths here. So it all started. They were somewhat friends growing up in the music scene. Tupac was more famous first. Biggie was up and coming. There's some famous pictures online of them when they were friends at that point, I guess. And I guess Tupac and Biggie, Biggie used to go to him for advice. I'm trying to pull up this picture. So this is a picture of them before Biggie blew up, and Tupac was somewhat of a celebrity, as you can see right here. So they were somewhat friends. And I guess they used to hang out a little bit. Every time that B.I.G. was in California, he would hang out with Tupac. Every time Tupac was in New York, he'd hang out with B.I.G. They were decent friends. So as time goes on, B.I.G. sees that Tupac's getting this notoriety, right? He's getting all these different things going on in his life, and he's like, why can't this happen for me? So he says to Tupac, hey, I want you to make Suge my manager. And Tupac tells him, you don't want to do that. Stick with P.Diddy. He's going to take you to the top or whatever. So as time goes on, they end up having some differences with Suge Knight, right? And Tupac stars in this movie Juice, which you just referenced, where he plays like a thug, and he's like the villain of the movie, does some fucked up stuff. And it's said that after that movie, he started to, because Tupac came from a decent background, and he wasn't like a criminal growing up.
Yeah, he went to performing arts school.
Yep. So
after that, thug.
But after that movie, he got some like street cred because real criminals and people on the streets, they saw that movie and they're like, oh, I relate to that guy. So he started getting this fan base, and notoriety. Every time he'd be out on the streets, people would be like, oh, that's the guy from the movie. You know what I mean? So he liked that. And he started to live his life a little bit more like that. He started to get into some legal trouble. He had a bunch of different shit going on. He started actually selling drugs for some reason, which didn't make a lot of sense. And he got in bed with this guy named Haitian Jack, who was like a street kingpin out in New York City, in Brooklyn, or not in Brooklyn, in the Bronx. And Tupac was in New York for an event, and Biggie knew about this, and he came to him. He was like, hey, you shouldn't like fuck with this guy, Haitian Jack. He's like real deal. You know what I mean? Like, he's bad news. And Biggie, Tupac blows him off like, whatever, I know what I'm doing. So a few nights later, Tupac kind of gets disrespectful with this guy, Haitian Jack. He ends up swindling him out of some money. So Haitian Jack puts a hit out on Tupac, right?
Ooh, so something I haven't heard.
Okay, so Tupac goes to this recording studio in New York City. He's going to meet with somebody to do a track with an artist.
Oh, this is the first time he gets shot?
Yes. Yeah, so he goes to do this track, and he goes into this recording studio, and when he goes to get an elevator, 5 guys hop out, and Tupac goes, it's hilarious, right? So Tupac goes to shoot back with his gun, and the gun goes off and shoots him in the leg. So the guys shoot at him, and they start pistol whipping him. So after the fact, the only time he got shot was by himself. He shot through his femoral artery, which he should have died from, and he got pistol whipped a bunch of times. So he falls in the elevator, and he bangs on the elevator. The elevator takes him to the top floor, or whatever, goes up. And when the doors open, Biggie and P.Diddy are there.
Yep.
In this room. So it was unrelated. It was completely unrelated. They would just happen to be in the same recording studio when this happened. They had nothing to do with it.
That's how they had the falling out.
Yes.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
But according to Tupac, in his brain, he's like, I just got fucking ran up on and shot. And, why are these guys here? And he then finds out that Biggie has some kind of connection with this Haitian Jack guy through a third party, but not like anything close, right? So time goes by. Tupac releases Hit 'Em Up or whatever, which is a diss song at Biggie. They go back and forth. So also what sparked this off is that song I mentioned, Who Shot Ya, came out, and Tupac took that personally, thought it was talking about him because it came out after he got shot. But it turned out that song was recorded 5 months before he even got shot. So it had nothing to do with these two things. Right? So, anyways.
Yo, give me 1 quick second. I got to plug something in. Hold on.
So time goes by. The Who Shot Ya song had nothing to do with that. So Tupac puts out Hit 'Em Up. It turns into like a real hip hop beef. If you want more information on that, that's easy to find. It was pretty prevalent in the media. So while this is all going on, Tupac is slowly like descending into madness. He's slowly turning into like a lunatic. Like he's doing crazy shit. He's beating people up. He gets arrested for rape. Oh yeah.
Yeah. What's the timeline on that? Like,
so he got arrested for rape. He got 4 years in prison was like his sentence. And while he was awaiting the trial for the sentencing is when he got shot the first time. So he got shot. He got shot, went to the hospital, and then the court revoked his bail because he got shot, and he went straight to prison. So that's everything. He got shot, sees Biggie and Diddy, gets shot, goes to jail, and he's just stewing in fucking prison by himself. Like, these motherfuckers shot me, and now I'm in jail because of it, blah, blah, blah. So he ends up getting like a like not parole, but like probation release.
What I never got is this must have been before they passed the 96
mandatory,
because they're like, yeah, Suge gets him out. He was already convicted since, and Suge gets him out on bail. It's like,
so yeah, this is what happened.
You can't even do that.
No, you can't.
Now
his bail was because this was like a sentence. He was sentenced to like a certain amount of time. So, anyways, the bail ended up being $2 million, and at the time, Tupac didn't have that cash flow to pay for it himself. So this is how he gets in bed with Suge Knight. Even deeper, Suge Knight was his manager before,
but he'd already been sentenced, right?
He'd already been sentenced. Yes, that doesn't make sense. I don't understand it either. Somehow he ends up he calls Suge Knight, right, and he's like, "Look, I'll sign with Death Row. I'll switch from Interscope to Death Row if you can get me the fuck out of jail." Takes a few days or a few months. Suge gets him out of jail. And get this. Tupac thought that Suge just posted the bail to sign like this. I think that he saw it in like a 13 fucking CD deal or something with them. But it turned out they incorporated it into his album sales. So it's basically like a loan. like a no interest loan. Tupac had to pay it himself to get out of jail. So Suge Knight didn't put up any money, and he got Tupac out of the deal. So
and right after that, he wrote All Eyes on Me like the next 2 weeks, right?
So Suge Knight specifically is a major part of the story. So if you don't know who Suge Knight is, he was manager, the owner of Death Row Records. He had acts such as Dr. Dre, Tupac, Snoop Dogg, and he was really like the big movement out in the West Coast rap community that got everything going out there. And he's also gigantic.
And he ran over somebody with his car. And
we'll get into all that. But he's also, I didn't know this. He was 6'6" and about 320 pounds. You know, he played for the Rams and the Raiders.
Yeah, you ever seen that video where he gets knocked the fuck out by that tall fucking, or it was like a small dude.
Yeah.
He's just sleep.
Yeah, things changed for him after Tupac died for sure. So we'll get into that when we get there. But right now, in the life of Tupac, he's making all this music. He's just trying to make money. That's really all he's doing. He's making as much music as he can because he's trying to make money. And he's also, like I said, slowly descending into madness. He starts committing these crimes. He beats somebody up. He gets involved in a robbery. Might have murdered somebody. Was on trial for murder. So
what?
yeah, or not trial. He was what's the charged with? He was charged with murder. Ended up getting dropped because someone else took the fall for it. Ended up being a lot, right? So on March 9th, 1997. Also, there's all these things with the Source Awards where Suge Knight goes up and he's basically calls out P.Diddy. He was like, yo, while your man's all dancing in your videos, come out to Death Row.
Yeah.
So they
ain't got no love for the West Coast.
Yeah, Snoop Dogg went up there yelling. So they end up almost getting in this huge brawl at the Source Awards. And that was kind of like, people were taking this serious too, because at one point, Diddy was out there for like another act, right? Not Notorious B.I.G. He was out in L.A. and he hired these Crips for security at the concert, similar to like what the Rolling Stones did with the Hells Angels back in the day. And basically, like you have to pay to come into this territory. You know what I mean? So if you need protection, one way
protection.
Yeah, it's like you're either going to pay us for protection or you're not going to pay us and we're going to fuck your shit up. So you choose, you know? So while this happened, though, he ends up getting in touch with these different people. And Diddy was like, it'd be nice if we could get this Tupac, get him out of the picture, like kind of joking. And he was like, I'd put up $1 million for somebody to kill him or whatever. Because Diddy also was at this time, everybody at this time thought they were fucking gangsters when they weren't. You know what I mean? So Diddy was kind of falling into that gangster lifestyle. So he tells these Crips, if someone kills him, I'll give him $1 million or whatever, right?
Wasn't it his grandfather?
No. So
that's what it said on the shit I seen.
Yeah, no, not his grandfather.
I'm just saying.
So March 9th, 1997, Tupac is going to Las Vegas for the Mike Tyson, and I'm trying to find who Mike Tyson was fighting.
That was to reclaim his title after getting
after he got out of prison. Yep. I don't remember who it was. It was some bum. It was over in the first round. It was a quick fight. But anyways, so he ends up going to this fight night. And on the way to the fight night, they're in the hotel. They get in an argument with this guy, and you can see it on video. Him, Suge, and a bunch of guys stomp this guy the fuck out in the hotel lobby. Right.
Orlando Jones, right, or something.
Orlando Jones. Oh, that's why I'm on the wrong thing. There we go. Orlando Anderson. So
Frank Bruno.
What are you talking about? Oh, that's who he was fighting? Mike Tyson? No, it was Bruce Seldon, not Frank Bruno. It was Bruce Seldon versus Mike Tyson. But anyway, so they're in the MGM Grand, and they're leaving. Something happens where they get an argument, and because Anderson was part of the Southside Crips, Tupac ended up where he punches Anderson in the face, knocking him to the ground. Shakur and the entourage, Tupac and Knight, they end up just assaulting him while he's on the ground. It's captured on video surveillance by the MGM Grand. So they end up getting the fuck out of there, right? And they're going to the Club 662. So they're in this Mercedes-Benz with the windows down. They drive by. They see these girls, Suge and Tupac. Tupac's on one side, Suge's on the other. Give the girls a little shout. They start driving. The girls drive away, and they see these guys at a gas station, and ends up being Orlando Anderson and Dwayne Davis and a few other guys, and they say, oh, we just saw Tupac and blah, 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 like just bragging, not like saying, hey, go kill these guys. And then Orlando Anderson and Dwayne Davis and some other guys end up pulling up. They shoot a bunch of rounds into the car. I think Tupac got hit 9 times. No, Tupac got hit 11 times. Suge actually got hit in the head with a bullet. Somehow survived, which was bizarre. Just he was such a giant man, it just like deflected off of him, basically. Like he's made of fucking iron. So he ends up getting shot. He ends up, living till they get to the hospital. And actually, when they're in the back of the ambulance, Tupac or Suge was like, hey, are you all right? You think you're going to make it? And Tupac, who'd been shot before, was like, yeah, I'm all right. You need to worry about you. You've never been shot before. Are you okay? Kind of joking. He goes to the hospital. 2 days later, ends up succumbing to his wounds and dying in the hospital. In the original thing here, that's how he got shot, right? So this guy Orlando Anderson, when that happened, is he left after he got his ass beat, and he's telling his buddies, "Fucking Tupac whooped my ass. I'm gonna kill this motherfucker." Blah 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 blah. One of the guys there, Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, ends up telling him like, "Hey, well, if you want to take him out, we can get paid off of it. I know a guy that's willing to put up $1 million to kill Tupac or whatever, right?" So that's what ended up sparking the hit. That's the whole reason they did it. So they went looking. So they go out looking for him, knowing they're going to go to a club in Vegas. We've been to Vegas. It's not small, but there's only so many places you can go. You know what I mean? So they're like, we'll eventually run into him out here. And they literally went to the first gas station they went to. Some girls came out talking about how they just saw Tupac. And like, this couldn't be any fucking better. You know what I mean? It wasn't like a great plan. It just all came about like destiny almost. So that's that half. Okay.
That $1 million plays into that too.
It does.
Yeah,
so that's what I'm saying. The whole reason that they even went out, like he came back like, fuck Tupac, I'm going to kill him. But just like anybody would say that, they just got their ass beat. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to kill this motherfucker. But the guy that was there, Dwayne Keefe D, was like, oh, I know a guy that'll give us $1 million if we kill him. Like, this is real.
Nobody's ever claimed the bounty.
We'll get to that. So the other half of it was Notorious B.I.G. So Tupac got murdered on September 7th, 1996. So March 9th, 1997, 9 months later. Christopher Wallace, Notorious B.I.G., he comes to California to promote his second album, Life After Death, and to perform that music video, Hypnotize. And gave some radio station interviews, and there was a little worry about him going out there after Tupac being killed. Because a lot of people blame Diddy in the media. There's a lot of people talking, like, fanning the flames of this conspiracy that P.Diddy killed Tupac, Just a little bit of worry. On top of that, he was having health issues. He was about 120 pounds overweight, which I feel like he was more than that. But
so that other shit I heard, did you hear about why he put up the $1 million?
We'll get to all that. Let's just get to what happened, and then we'll get into the conspiracies and stuff. So Notorious B.I.G. is going out to L.A., okay? He goes out there to promote his new album. While he's out there, there's some threats. He gets some threats. So they call the police, and they're like, hey, can we get like some extra security at this hotel we're staying at? So they give the information to the police. Hey, this is this hotel we're staying at. Do you think you could just keep a guy outside, just like scare away anybody that tries to do something? They end up saying, yeah, okay, whatever, we'll do that. They go to, I forget what it's called. It might have been the Source Awards again. No, the Vibe magazine, something or other, right?
When did those end?
I know, that's what I'm saying. So they go to that, and afterwards they're debating if they want to go to him and P.Diddy are debating if they want to go to this after party, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we're really tired. We have an early day of recording in the morning, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, all right, fuck it. We'll go for a little while, right? So they get there, and the party's getting like broken up. So they decide to come back home. Well, when they come back, they realize that something's off because that cop is not there anymore. That was sitting outside. They're like, this is weird. That cop's not out there. All of a sudden, roll up to the side of the car. 9 people with 19 millimeter pistols, which I'm not sure what those are. I think they're like the semi-automatic ones.
Yeah.
So 9 people with 19 millimeter pistols pull up next to them and just unload on the fucking car. They said he got shot up to 37 times. So I mean, he
did.
Yeah. So he was basically dead on the scene.
Yeah.
So he gets lit up. So the first thing that happens is, Diddy realizing where the fuck is that cop, thinks the cop got paid off to kill him. So the official story, is that unknown men killed Notorious B.I.G. and Orlando Anderson, in a fit of rage after getting his ass beat, is the one that killed Tupac. So now we'll get into some of the, I guess, conspiracy theories or unclaimed information. So
unclaimed information.
You were saying something about the $1 million. I'll let you go ahead with that. So the $1 million that Diddy was talking about.
Oh, yeah. So the $1 million from what I watched, which was, a whole hour's worth of shit. And, I still remember some of the, back in the day, the VH1 always used to run that shit about Biggie and Tupac and shit. Yeah. And that whole story was the one, that's completely different from
the real life.
You're saying it's about those 3 cops, the one that robbed a bank, and the other one was stealing cocaine from the evidence room and selling it on the street. They were actually part of that movie Rampart. Those are the actual cops.
So this is what we'll get into with the next part here. So retired LAPD officer Greg Kading, who is fantastic. You can find tons of his stuff on YouTube, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever. Biggie's mom ended up suing the LAPD for $500 million for wrongful deaths, basically because that cop wasn't outside and they think that they got set up, all that, blah, blah. That's because P.Diddy's, that's what P.Diddy's telling it, right? Mm-hmm. So he ends up getting hired by LAPD to look into this case to try to disprove that the LAPD was responsible for Biggie's death, right? So while he's investigating it, he comes across, just by, again, random luck. A lot of this shit was literally random luck. They end up arresting this guy, and he had 50 gallons of PCP in huge fucking tankers. They catch him with it, right?
See, I didn't hear any of this shit.
So, yeah, you also didn't do a lot of research.
You're right, I didn't. So. I had somebody else summarize it and take their word for it. Even though I'm going to tear it apart because I think there were some serious holes in it.
Okay. So,
which is that guy I think you're talking about.
So Greg Kading ends up finding this guy. By luck, they make an arrest on this guy who has 50 gallons of PCP. And they tell him, look, they know he's a Southside Crip or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And they're like, look, if you have any information on the street, if you can help us out, maybe we can make this go away where you don't go to jail for the rest of your life. And he's like, well, what kind of information do you want? And Greg Kading says, well, I'll just say this. I'm a homicide detective, and I'm investigating a very, a celebrity murder or whatever. And he's like, I'll leave it at that. You get in touch with me. You have 24 hours or whatever to figure it out. So within just a few hours, he leaves, and within a few hours, he gets a phone call. And it's that guy's lawyer, and says, hey, my client is willing to talk. He wants to meet with you. So the guy in question that got caught with all the PCP was none other than Dwayne Keefe D. Davis. And he says, so I have the information that you want. And he ends up telling the entire story of what happened with Tupac getting killed. So this guy, this detective, Greg Kading, was looking into Biggie's murder and accidentally solved Tupac's murder. So Keefe D says basically the story I said earlier, that Orlando Anderson came back to the hotel they were all hanging out at and was like, I'm going to kill this motherfucker Tupac. Keefe D was like, well, I know a guy, they'll give us $1 million if we do kill Tupac, because he was also in the Southside Crips or whatever. He was there when P. Diddy said, I'll put up $1 million for somebody to kill that motherfucker, which he said half joking. And like you said, no one's ever tried to claim that $1 million. P. Diddy also denies that he ever put, that's not true.
But the reason why he put up the $1 million is because did you watch the video that you sent me? Did you also not watch the second one?
No.
So the reason he put up the $1 million is because Suge Knight had let's see if I can remember this right. Suge Knight had ran into somebody that Diddy knew, and he was trying to get, this is before anybody got murdered. He was trying to get Diddy's address in LA.
Yeah, okay.
Actively hunting Diddy. Yeah. And he was like, yo, I'll put a $1 million just to get rid of this and make sure I don't get killed. So that's
the thing. We
that's
kind
where the
of
million comes from.
we glossed over all the politics of it because we're really just talking about their deaths. But there was a lot of like dangerous shit going on between these. Like this East Coast West Coast shit was real. Like people were getting hurt. People's families were like in danger. Like shit was dicey there for a little while. So that makes sense. He was like, he was desperate. He was desperate. He didn't want to get killed.
You know what's crazy while all this is going on? Oh shit!
You're back. You're back. You're back.
While all this shit's going on, all these rappers are fighting. People are getting murdered and shit. And Jeffrey Epstein's just raping kids on the
No, this was like, yeah, you're probably right.
Oh. Nobody's saying anything, dude. Old Billy's getting his dick sucked in the fucking Oval Office.
We're not gonna slander anybody's name here.
Slander?
Yeah, we don't know that.
Yes, we do.
Oh, you said the Oval Office. Yeah. That's true. That's true.
Oh, on the island? Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Man, come on, dog.
So anyhow, this guy that was hired to disprove that the LAPD was responsible for Biggie's death ends up accidentally solving Tupac's death, or so he thinks. So he gets this information. So he takes that back to the LAPD and he's like, "Look, did you guys know about this? Like, is anybody fucking researching this?" So that's considered like almost like a case closed. Like they're not going to charge anybody. Oh no, actually, I lied. Orlando Anderson was eventually charged with Tupac's murder. So technically, I guess that's been solved. Let's see. But the problem is he's dead. He died in 1998. He was killed in a gang-related shooting a few weeks, or 3 months after Tupac was killed. So he was charged with it posthumously, or however the fuck you say it.
Posthumously.
Whatever. So
I don't know.
I don't think that's right either. Yeah.
Say it.
I don't think that's right either.
It is right.
Let's see.
I can't get a word in, but you can fucking research posthumously. Go ahead. I want to hear it. I want to hear it.
All right. Anyways, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to say you were right, but I'm not going to say you're wrong. You know what I mean? So anyway, all this stuff with Keefe D, spills the beans. So that still doesn't help Greg Kading figure out what the fuck happened to B.I.G., right?
Yeah.
He's still looking into it. He ends up finding out all this dirty shit. Like, it turns into like a fucking spiral, right? He's just finding shit left and right about this fucking LAPD beating the shit out of people, fucking robbing, like you said, stealing people's coke, fucking killing drug dealers, leaving them in an alley, and then going and finding other drug dealers and killing them and putting them in the alley and being like, gang-related shooting. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. You think people would be upset if no.
Wait.
I can't say it. Never mind. I was just thinking about the protests.
Oh, yeah. Don't say that. So anyways, he ends up finding out all this shit and ends up being this whole police corruption scandal that turns into like this gigantic news story. And he still can't find the connection between the scandal that he found and Biggie being killed. But what he can find is that who actually killed
Roger Rabbit?
No. Yeah, who killed Roger Rabbit? So it seems like the Biggie one was more of a financial gain, right? So it seemed like this guy...
The Tupac one.
No. Biggie. So it seemed like there was some money put up for Biggie after Tupac was killed. Because remember, I told you when they got to L.A., Diddy was worried about these threats they were getting. So it was like a real thing.
Yeah, Suge definitely had Biggie killed.
That's what I'm saying. So Biggie...
Well, sort of.
No. Listen. So Suge puts up this money. This guy, Wardell... This is what Greg Kading finds out. Wardell Poochie Fusi. He's a Mob Piru gang member and associate of Suge Knight. Was riding his motorcycle around in Compton. And through this guy, Poochie, who's now dead, his girlfriend said that it was to avenge the death of Tupac and that Suge paid him. And
she's seen Suge in prison, and he said, "Go kill Biggie."
Yeah. So that seems to be the believed story of that. So now let's get into... So now we know how they died. There's a lot of mystery. The reason we started with this one is because it's the longest one. So it seems like the reason that Tupac was killed was more of a misunderstanding because, that $1 million bounty wasn't real. And then that guy just took it.
Are you talking about like the misunderstanding about the bounty or him kicking the shit out of that dude?
No, he definitely kicked the shit out of that guy. So
that's definitely a misunderstanding.
Well, like I was saying, like Tupac was kind of just, like I said, descending into madness. He was turning into an animal. Like he was doing crazy shit. He was having mental issues. It all started after he got shot. You know, I mean, which is understandable, but
I feel like he had a self-fulfilling prophecy though. He had a date with death and he wanted it to come.
Yeah, that's possible too. I could see that. Biggie, on the other hand, his health was already. We kind of glossed over that.
Yeah.
When he went out to LA, by that time he was like over 120 pounds overweight. He was having breathing issues. He had sleep apnea. He was in the hospital for having these different. So he was in rough shape as well. He was having trouble. Like he went days without sleeping. Yada yada. So anyway, so the believed story is that Poochie Fousey, or how the fuck you say this guy's last name, was the one that killed Biggie. Orlando Anderson and Keefe D were the ones that killed Tupac. So the conspiracy that we've heard is that they're both alive, living in Cuba. And you've seen these various pictures of fucking
Cuba
of Tupac still alive in Cuba. It's like always like a picture that like vaguely resembles him. It's just like a bald black guy with a band-aid on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But who knows? So do you think that's a possibility?
That he's alive?
Yeah. Is there any possibility?
If he didn't make all the Machiavellian statements and he wasn't such like a philosopher, I would say, you know, I'm 90% sure he's dead. I'll leave the 10% he might be alive.
See, like, there's always this picture. He was out there as a ranch hand out in Cuba. You know what I'm saying?
That motherfucker looks like Tupac, dog. I've never seen that one. I always see the one where it's like, you know, he's like, it's like behind him, but it's like half to the left or something like that.
So,
and that really does look like him, dog.
It does look like an older Tupac, right? And I can see, apparently, if you zoom in, you can see his fading tattoos, but I can't really.
Well, then let's get into why this is even possible. Is because he got cremated, and you know what the contradictory thing is though. Like you're like, oh, he's living in Cuba. It's like, you know, this guy's all about freedom and shit, and he goes and moves to Cuba. Like,
yeah,
that doesn't make any fucking sense.
No,
but he was cremated like quick, especially for a murder.
Yeah,
but she said it was because they didn't want the dad to start claiming money.
I just want to say that there was a lot of shit that went into people worried about getting sued, and you're gonna notice that.
I love how that's the first thought when your son dies is we got to.
That's what I was gonna say. You got to. That's gonna be a trend in all of these celebrity deaths. A lot of people are like, we can't get sued for this. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I don't care who killed him. He's already dead.
Yeah. But seriously, like just about every single one of these deaths, it ends with them like, we got to get rid of this fucking body and no one can know about this. You know what I mean? Instead of like, let's get this guy some help or this is a tragedy. It's like, no.
Except the Maryland one. The Maryland one, I actually did some research.
So we're going to get into that one. We're going to get into that one right now. So, all right. So anyway, so let's finish with Tupac and Biggie. So do we think?
So what do you think happened?
So I believe that Greg Kading guy. That's the other thing I didn't get to. So he ended up actually, before he could crack the case, as they say, he ended up writing a book and coming out with the information. But before he could charge anybody, he actually got like what the equivalent of getting disbarred as a detective because some bullshit came out a few months later about a case he had done 6 years previous where he made like some kind of clerical mistake, and then everything is discredited now, right?
See,
on top of that, there was a movie that just was supposed to come out a year or two ago with Johnny Depp called City of Lies that ended up not coming out.
How does Johnny Depp get involved in that?
What are you talking about? He's an actor, dude.
I know, but he's just like, you know, he's like, I've heard that he's Jack Sparrow even when he's not fucking.
Yeah, that's true. But
that's what I'm saying. Like,
so, anyways, he ends up getting this role as this guy, and it actually looked like a good movie where he plays Greg Kading, and basically everything we just explained is what the movie was about. But it never came out in the U.S. because of different licensing issues. A lot of people, if you look into it, it does seem like the LAPD was very against that movie coming out, and maybe led to him getting falsely accused of beating his wife. There's a lot of that gets a whole conspiracy theory of its own, but the movie never came out in the U.S. It ended up getting scrapped. You can only find, and I tried last night, so you can only find it the Italian version. It's in Italian, and I couldn't even find that online last night. So,
see, I'm sold on the conclusion of the Tupac death. I'm not sold on the Biggie one whatsoever.
So that one's a little bit more shrouded in mystery.
So the shit I watched, this guy's talking about how all the evidence of the, you know, previous thought, you know, the case they brought in civil court against LAPD, you know, it's all circumstantial. And then he goes and presents circumstantial evidence with the Biggie one. He's like, well, Suge Knight Suge Knight purchased a Black Impala for this dude Pooch, but there's no proof of it.
Yeah,
and
he's
like, well, this chick admitted to it after we threatened her to put her in life in jail. Like, yeah, I would admit to all of it too if I was threatened with life in jail.
Yeah, the revelation of that, and the big thing about his book is not about the Biggie murder. He was hired to just prove that LAPD was not responsible.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
That doesn't matter. The big shocking thing that got out of that was him accidentally proving Tupac's murder. But the Biggie one that's
that's
what I mean. I said that all along. It's kind of shrouded in mystery. That's who they think killed him, but they don't really know. That guy, Greg Kading's famous for solving Tupac's murder and literally getting this guy to confess, but because he had PCP on him and confessed for the wrong murder.
Yeah, that was who was in that interview. But he I don't know. He frames the Biggie one like it's set in stone. It's like he says, this chick saying that, or Suge bought the Black Impala for Poochie to use, and he gave her $25K. It's like, where's the evidence of any of that? I mean, all he has to do in civil court is prove that there's an other option possible.
Exactly, and then he win. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So,
and that's what happened. That's all he had to do. And I think.
But the Tupac one makes complete sense.
Well, the Tupac one is the guy was charged with it. So I mean, that's the story right now. So, so you think they're both dead? I think they're both dead too. I think it's sad, but I think.
Dude, you showed me that other picture. What the fuck, dude? He's like driving around some 1950s fucking,
So one of the reasons people think. One of the reasons that people think that Tupac's still alive is because of all what's the word?
Machiavellian.
No. What's the word?
Posthumously.
Posthumously, all the music.
SH instead of ST.
Gotcha. The reason all the music came out after he died, and it was like, well, wait a minute, how is that possible if he's dead? Because literally, like 4 albums came out after he died, which is insane. Well, the reason is he was under that crate. Remember, I told you about how he got out of jail and all that with Suge Knight. Well. Yeah. He hated working for Suge Knight. Suge Knight was basically using him like he did everyone else in his life. And because of that, Tupac wanted to desperately get out of that contract. So he was trying to do his damnedest to fulfill that fucking contract. So they said he recorded up to 400 hours of songs that still have, there's some that still have.
I'm not sold on the Suge Knight thing because I remember seeing videos of him recording All Eyes on Me. And it's just like he knew he was going to die. He's like, I remember like there's like a video of him like, we ain't got time. He's like, we don't have time. He's like, we got to make all these songs. We don't have time.
What does that have to do with Suge Knight, though?
I don't think he was trying to make a lot of his songs to get out from under Suge Knight.
No, he was. That's not debatable. It's very well documented that he was trying to get the fuck out of that contract.
You don't think he knew he was going to die early? He had already been shot.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not what I'm talking about. There's literally documentation where he was trying to file civil motions to get out of that contract. He did not like working there. He did not like being on Death Row Records. He was like, okay, I'm not going to win this civil suit, so fuck it. I'll just give you 700 songs. You put the albums out, and then I can go make my own music. You know what I mean? On top of that, he wanted to do these movies, and he couldn't do them because he was so tied down with this music. So a lot of his life was real sad because he had a lot of fucked up stuff going on. But to be fair, he was a convicted rapist, so maybe fuck him. I don't know. Let's move on to the next.
All these black men that get famous, they become convicted rapists. So I'm not sold on any of that shit.
Yeah, his story was weird because his was like
same thing with Tyson.
Tyson raped that chick for sure. The Tupac one is sketchy because it was like a gang rape, and he was just in the same hotel suite. And from all accounts, even the girl that got raped said he didn't actually like rape her, but he could have stopped it.
What, the Tupac or Tyson?
The Tupac. So for the Tupac one, it's like he still could have stopped it. He just like let this chick get raped in this.
So you think Tyson sodomized that chick or whatever?
That's an entire different story. We don't have time for that. So let's move on to the next thing. We're already
comfortable with a little sodomy.
No, Malcolm, we're already at an hour. By the way,
are we?
Yes. So remember, you're like, I can only give you an hour and a half, and I was like, there's no way we get through all this in an hour and a half. We did an hour just on Biggie and Tupac. But that's why we did it first. We knew that one was going to be the longest one. So do you want to do Marilyn Monroe now? Since you said you.
Fuck yeah, I want to do Marilyn Monroe.
I think that's
literally and
yeah, exactly. I think that's something a lot of people were saying over the years.
So let's just start out with one of the things I learned that I thought was interesting is she's a redhead, which I did not know.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, which is very, very weird. She also used to pack parachutes in World War II, and that's how she was discovered.
Yep.
Was from some guy coming to. So, dude, let's just start off with the crazy. Like, she is the shit that's happened to her in her life is enough for like 3 or 4 lifetimes.
Oh yeah.
She died like 36. So she had two Yeah.
I mean, she was very good looking. This is the famous picture that everyone sees her.
Now type in like factory. And there's there's the first picture that was taken of her from that guy that discovered her.
Yep. And then the thing he said was like, if you look hot in that outfit, then you're hot. You know what I mean? That's like what the guy said. Like you're beautiful. If you look beautiful in overalls, then there's no denying the beauty.
Yeah. So she had 3 marriages, 2 miscarriages, went to an orphanage, fucking married at 16, dating some dude that was 21 when she was 13.
Yeah. She also had a fucked up childhood where her brother, her younger brother, who was like her closest like friend, was attacked and killed by a fucking pit bull in front of her, which is insane that's something that happened back in the day. Yeah, that's how her little brother died.
Perfect. So her mom went to an insane asylum when she was 7.
Yep. She
goes to live with her aunt, and her aunt's too poor to take care of her, sends her to an orphanage. She gets out of the orphanage. Her aunt sends her to her aunt's sister. She lives with her. They're too poor. She goes back to the orphanage. She meets this guy. She gets married at like 16. Man, people were crazy back in the day because she gets married at 16. She's in love with this guy. Typically people who have don't have a solid, nucleus when they're growing up. Obviously, if somebody's gonna show them love and take care of them, they're gonna become attached to him. Yeah. This fucking guy, he works for Lockheed Martin. He's dating, one of the sexiest, most beautiful bombshells of all time. And he's working at Lockheed Martin. He doesn't have to enter the draft as long as he stays with this job at Lockheed Martin. He decides he's not doing enough. He wants to go fucking spend a year on some goddamn ship. So he leaves. She starts working at a factory. This dude's not around. She ends up leaving him. Boom, marriage 1, gone.
Mm-hmm.
And then she starts doing all these. She was in like, I think 29 movies, which is crazy. Getting paid
and also
crazy money back in the day.
Yeah, well, the thing was, she was in this one movie. You all right over there?
This fucking, I got this shitty ass Dynex TV as a monitor, and it's like about to fucking explode.
All right, well, your light just went out.
No, the TV went out. It was providing.
Okay, I got you. So, anyhow, all those movies though, she was like the same role. She was like
now it looks like a hostage victim.
Yeah, it does. You look like you're doing an ISIS video.
Just all over fucking newspaper, dude. Fucking.
What day is it? Show us what day it is. So she was in, and you said she was in all these movies, but she was playing this same role. A lot of the movies, she didn't even have speaking scenes. She was just like the arm candy. In the movie.
And she didn't like it.
No, she hated it. And she was continuously cast as this like blonde bimbo is what they called it, right? Or blonde bombshell, where she was just really dumb. She would come in and say some stupid line, and then that'd be it. It would just be like, oh, there's Marilyn Monroe. And they were paying her a shitload of money to do it, but she felt like she was more talented than that. And then she meets Joe DiMaggio, who is as you guys, many may know, he was a Hall of Fame player for the Yankees, baseball player for the Yankees. He holds the streak for most consecutive games with a hit. And he also probably had the most consecutive games with a hit of his wife's face because he used to beat the shit out of her with a belt. He was a crazy, overprotective douchebag. He was a lunatic. He burned her with fucking water one time, which is like could have ruined her career. Like threw boiling water on her face, which could have literally ruined her career. He made her like do all kinds of weird sex stuff. He was into like butt play. It was weird.
Elaborate on that. What was weird sex stuff back in the
probably nothing. Probably like what you did on Friday night.
Some of these savages now, dude.
It's like, wait a minute.
Blasphemous. Did it be burn him at a stake?
Wait a minute. You want to be on top?
So they almost
be possessed by the devil woman. Like that's how they acted back then. Like, that's crazy. Like you couldn't even tell your friends that.
I'm gonna stuff it in your ass. You see?
I was gonna say you tell your friends that, and the
crazy
that happens.
Is,
they're gonna be like. The whole neighborhood finds out, and then like you're not allowed to go to PTO meetings because you had non-missionary sex with your wife.
PTO, paid time off. You mean PTA?
Yeah, PTA. Hey, I've had a long fucking few days. All right. Hey, speaking of that, give us just a second, guys. We'll be right back. All right. Sorry about that. We were just fixing our internet connection. We are back and ready to go. So we were talking about having weird butt sex with and telling your neighbors about it with Marilyn Monroe. So basically, she marries. Joe DiMaggio, she's extremely unhappy, very violent relationship.
Yeah, so 2 weeks into that marriage, they almost got divorced because they go to Japan. And one of the funny things I didn't know is that she was even a huge international star. So Joe DiMaggio goes to play an exhibition game in Japan, and he thinks he's going to be getting all the shine. She gets off the plane, and it's all her.
Well, they were like, he was like, hey, since we never have a honeymoon, let's just make this our honeymoon.
Yep. So, she's married to DiMaggio. I guess, they loved each other, but they couldn't be with each other, basically. And also,
it was one of those. It really did seem like one of those relationships. I think everyone's been in where it's just like very passionate. You're just like, but you hate each other. You know what I mean? Like you guys are having like wild sex and everybody. Everything's
never
high
the person
stakes. Never the person you should be married to. Never. I think we've all been in those relationships. So.
It's funny you say that because I was literally just telling my roommate that like literally like 3 days ago. I'm like, yeah, that chick you brought by here, like when you pull a homie aside and like, hey, bro, this chick is wild. And he goes, yeah, I know. He goes, she's wild in bed. She's like, exactly why you should stay away from her.
Yeah.
Anyways,
there's like a famous movie with Matthew McConaughey. I can't remember which one it is. I think he's not in the Ocean's movie, is he? No, just move on. There's a movie with Matthew McConaughey where like he's getting a divorce, and that's like pretty much the divorce proceedings. It's just like they both are just like talking about how miserable the person is, and then they tell the therapist like, but the sex was good, like the girl like says it, and she like lights a cigarette just thinking about it, like. And then she goes back to like, he took all my money. He didn't have a job. He wrecked my car, and it's like the sex, So that was with DiMaggio and Marilyn Monroe.
So she's married to DiMaggio. DiMaggio's jealous. She's getting all the signs. And also another little fun fact is, speaking of him beating the shit out of her, that famous picture where she's on the vent. I guess he comes out of a bar. I don't know if this is in New York or L.A. He comes out of a bar and he's hammered. I guess he's been drinking all day.
Oh, yeah, that was the other thing. He loved getting drunk. He loved playing baseball, and he loved getting drunk.
Yeah. So. What's crazy is when she met him, she hadn't even seen a baseball game before. Didn't even know what it was.
And he was an ugly motherfucker. So the fact that she didn't marry him off of just him being like one of the greatest baseball players of all time is crazy.
That's what's crazy about her is her looks are like timeless. She would be hot in any era.
Yeah.
So that famous vent photo, he actually comes out trash, see all these people huddled around her, her skirt's flying up. He's like, what the fuck's going on? So he went home and beat the shit out of her. Anyways. So
it's not funny, but it was just crazy how accepted that was back then. It was like, oh, I did something to make Joe upset. Now I have to take my beating with a belt,
So, crazy. There's that whole backstory of her childhood, then she gets divorced from Joe DiMaggio. She was also sleeping with her future husband at the same time.
Okay, and let's pause right there. Let's pause right there real quick. So things start to really heat up when she gets divorced from DiMaggio. Because before that, she wasn't really – what's the word here? What's the right word? She wasn't promiscuous. Yeah. She was basically just with the two people she married. Yeah, she basically was with the first guy she married, and then she was with DiMaggio, and that was it. She was very faithful, apparently. And then once she broke it off with DiMaggio, things got a little wild. You know what I mean?
And this could be contributed because she was on a fuck ton of drugs.
Yeah.
She had like 5 or 6 doctors.
Oh, also, real quick. Also, this also coincided perfectly with her deal with Fox, where she basically was like, I don't want to be in these movies anymore unless I'm the star, right? And Fox was like, no, well, they didn't negotiate with women. They're like, you're just going to be in the movies we tell you to be in. It ends up going back and forth, and they find out she ends up being in this movie where she's like a side person, and she blows up, right? She's still married to DiMaggio at this time. So she ends up holding out her deal with Fox. Fox eventually comes back, and it's like, all right, we'll give you like a 10-movie deal where you're the star, and we'll let you pick which movies you want to be in. And then she's in that movie, Some Like It Hot, and she ends up being like a gigantic star. This is all why she's with DiMaggio. And then
she was making crazy money for a woman in that time. It was nuts.
So when on all this is happening, though, she's turning this the biggest star in the world. They said she was the most photographed person that ever walked the earth, right? So after she breaks up with Joe DiMaggio, Fox ends up reneging on their deal. They end up fucking up, and somehow they passed her on a movie or something. So now she's a free agent. Now she can be in any movie, any show, anything she wants to be in. She's single. She's ready to mingle. She's out there on the scene. She's this huge celebrity. So she's like, man, life's so much better when some guy's not beating me in his shitty apartment in the 2 days a week that he's even home. You know what I mean? So She's living her
and
life.
She's taking all these drugs.
Taking tons of drugs.
Tons of drugs. They said she had 7 different prescriptions for all these drugs. She was doctor shopping, had all these different doctors. So this is where it gets like, all right, well, this is just normal fucked up kind of, star fame bullshit. And then this is where it gets crazy because she's taking all these drugs and she meets this doctor, Dr. Ralph Greenson.
Yep.
And this guy,
he's technically a psychiatrist. Though.
He's a psychiatrist. He wasn't actually prescribing the drugs, but he told her, like, yeah, you got to consolidate these doctors down to, you got to get these drugs from only one guy.
Yeah.
So he recommends a doctor. He also tells her that, hey, I got this lady, something Murray. I want her to be your housekeeper and all this shit. So it turns out this guy, Ralph Greenson. Okay, so let's just say he's a psychiatrist. Anyways, in her love life, she starts banging JFK, Bobby Kennedy, and
Jimmy Hoffa, Frank
Sinatra, Dean Martin, all these fucking people. But the big thing is that she's banging JFK, and this is before he became president.
Yeah,
and she's also banging his brother, which is just. I feel like
let's explain that a little bit. So what happens is she meets JFK at this like party, and he's at the time is the governor of Massachusetts or the senator of Massachusetts, and he's already married, but they have an affair, right? And they're sleeping together, and some time goes by.
But Jackie knows about it the whole time, which is so crazier.
So as this is going on, though, they are doing these different things. I think it was like the worst kept secret in fucking the world. Like everyone knew that he was banging Marilyn Monroe. It was part of the reason he got elected president because people were like, "Fuck yeah, you got my vote." You know what I mean? Because he was banging her. So, so one of the stories here is that they asked, like, I guess there was something about his relationship with her, whether he just was like, "Oh, she's just another one," and this is like a real quote. She's just another one of those girls that meets the Kennedys and can't get enough or whatever, right? And she saw it differently. She like was in love with John F. Kennedy, right?
Yeah, she thought he was gonna leave Jackie
to be with her. Yeah,
to be with her, which is bizarre.
So she was like really like deeply in love with him, right? And then as JFK started climbing the political ranks and then was running for president and then won the presidency, they were like, yeah, he was like Heisman, like you gotta stay away. And she didn't understand.
But not really, because when he became president, she had her own private line to the White House.
Yeah. They talked about times. They were talking about times where she would like wear an outfit to sneak into the hotel he was at like the Republican
Black
convention
wig.
or whatever. Yeah. But anyways. So as this is happening, though, there's times where JFK is like, I literally cannot be around you, like for the image or whatever. So he's sidestepping her, and then what he decided was telling Robert Kennedy, like, hey, can you handle this? Can you keep her away from me? And then all he did was Robert Kennedy was be like, hey, he doesn't want to see you, blah 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 blah. And then they developed a sexual relationship, which was crazy. It's just so funny. He was like, well, I mean, what are you doing tonight? You know what I mean? Like, just what the fuck. So he starts sleeping with her. He's also married. So this is when things start to get a little dicey. So Marilyn Monroe is having this affair with JFK and then RFK. It seems like the big problem was with Robert Kennedy. It seemed as though she had some knowledge that only Robert Kennedy would have known, right?
Well, so JFK would tell Bobby Kennedy, state secrets.
Yeah.
And obviously, so he's sleeping with Monroe. He would confide in Monroe. And it's not so much that he confided in Monroe. It's that, by the way, her name was, her original name is Norma Jean.
Norma Jean.
So it's not that he would confide in her. It was that Monroe kept this diary and she would take notes on what he was telling her, because the next time they conversated, she wanted to learn a little bit, and then maybe she could conversate a little bit more, which if you're writing down state secrets, dude, it's not good.
So she apparently had this little black book, which was like a diary, because she was smart. Like she knew that she was actually very manipulative, but she knew she could use this information to get to JFK or get to RFK. And also she was getting bad advice from her psychiatrist, who was basically telling her, like, all these, basically it seemed that JFK was paying this guy to just tell her whatever JFK wanted her to hear, which was like, you should leave him and stop seeing him,
No, he wasn't, not her psychiatrist.
There's a lot going on with that. But anyways, so at one point, J. Edgar Hoover confronts JFK and was like, "Hey, look, we're getting this intel from a spy we have that's pretending to be a communist. All of these secrets that only like you know, and the way he's getting them is from Marilyn Monroe. Can you explain like how that's possible, right?" So he's confused and he's like, I didn't tell her any, because he's like, I didn't tell her any of that shit. I don't know how she could know that. I literally, I don't give her any information, blah, 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 whatever happened in the past happened in the past. Somehow it begins to trickle down and they figure out it's Robert that's giving her this information accidentally. So they're kind of thinking that maybe, this is a problem, but they're thinking, is it a problem because she just is a blabbermouth and we need to shut it? Or is she a spy? And that was seriously considered for a while. Like, was she really a communist spy stealing secrets? Was she really doing it? Because they're like, there's a compelling argument to make there. Because it's like, why was she so obsessed with JFK and RFK? Why was she, she could be with any guy she wanted to be. Why was she so obsessed with these two guys? And maybe she was because she was stealing information, and maybe she was giving it to someone for money. Maybe she was giving it to someone for drugs. Maybe she was giving it to someone because she fucking hated America. I don't know. I don't think any of that's true, but it's possible.
She's definitely not a spy. We didn't even talk about how she actually died.
Yeah, well, we haven't got to that yet. So another thing is there were some issues with her with the mafia because the whole JFK thing, they wanted to get to JFK. The JFK mafia, that's a whole other thing. So she started to become paranoid, right? So she's taking all these drugs. She thinks people are following her. It turned out that the CIA and FBI did have surveillance on her because they thought that this information leak thing was a problem.
No, it's from what I read, it's because they knew that her psychiatrist was part of the KGB, and so was her housekeeper.
Yeah,
and basically what happened is she went down to Mexico City for a vacation, and then she met with somebody that was part of the KGB that the FBI did have tapped.
Yeah.
And then they opened up a file on her as being a communist where they weren't sure.
As I'm saying, there was a time where they thought she could have been a spy.
Cloudy.
Yeah. But there were serious talks in our government that Marilyn Monroe, America's sweetheart, was a spy for the fucking communists. That was a real thing that they investigated. So there's also, I looked into all this stuff. There's FBI memos saying that she was a high security risk. Like she was rated as a high security risk of international secrets, right? So all this stuff goes on. She's also having issues with the mafia to the point where she was real good friends with Frank Sinatra. She would hang out with him a lot. She slept with him. But she gets invited this weekend to like a boathouse out in Minnesota, right? And she's like, oh, that sounds nice for the weekend. Well, when she gets to the boathouse, it is Frank Sinatra's there, but so is Sammy the Bull Giancana. Was that his name? Yeah, Giancana, and a few other mafiosos. And they gang raped her. They drugged her and gang raped her and took pictures to blackmail her.
What?
Yeah. And the way they found the pictures was when they got them developed. So, like they got, back in the day, you had to take it to like, the pharmacy and get them developed or whatever. And this guy just saw these pictures because I guess whoever took the picture, whoever his camera it was, didn't know it was on there, And the guy was like, I don't know where you got these pictures, but you should burn them immediately. And she did claim later on that did happen. She said she got raped for these. It just never, no one cared, I guess, which is terrible. So that's pretty much where we're at with. Is there anything else you want to add about her life before we get into her death?
I mean, no, she was tied into the Kennedys. She had access to state secrets. She had her own private line to the White House. This guy, Ralph Greenson, was a communist. So was her housekeeper. Her housekeeper was put in there by Ralph Greenson. She also lived down the street from this guy. And then the death is where it gets really weird.
Okay, so we'll get into the death. So first things first is the day of her death, Saturday, August 4th. 1962. She goes and sees her psychiatrist who came to her house and they had a therapy session. Before he left, he asked the housekeeper to stay the night to keep her company because she was acting a little weird, right? And at 7:00, she got a phone call and it was from Joe DiMaggio Jr., who she had still been close with, even though she divorced his father. And he told her that he had broken up with his girlfriend, some bullshit, and she was like, oh, and then he even said afterwards, like, she seemed completely normal, like she was just giving me motherly advice, like she did not act out of the ordinary whatsoever, right? So she telephones the psychiatrist to tell him about this, and this is when things start getting weird, right? She seems real broken up about her ex-stepson's breakup. Like, she's just emotional wreck, right?
But that's not true.
What?
Well, that's what's in question. Is what?
No. All right, we'll get to the conspiracy after. This is the official narrative, right?
Yeah.
So
bullshit.
She's apparently real broken up about this Joe DiMaggio Jr.'s breakup, right? So she retires. Greenson calls the housekeeper and is like, "Hey, you should seriously keep an eye on her. She seems like there's something wrong. She's having like a mental break or something." So around 8:00, she goes to her bedroom, and she gets a call from Peter Lawford, who was trying to get her to come to a party. And she, at that point, Lawford is like, something's wrong. She was just like, no, I'm good. I'm just going to stay here tonight, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, it sounds like you're on drugs. Like, are you okay? And she said to him,
and I am on drugs.
Yeah. He was saying weird shit like, say goodbye to the president. And because you're a nice guy. And she's like, what are you talking about? Like, so he calls,
fuck me?
He's trying. So now this guy, Peter, it's basically how she's talking. This Peter Lawford guy is like, what the fuck's going on? So he tries to call that Greenson guy, like, hey, trying to get a hold of him and not get a hold of him. He gets a hold of Monroe's lawyer, and he calls the housekeeper, and the housekeeper's like, she's fine. Yeah, she's just tired. She had a long day, right? So
have you looked up a picture of this guy, Peter Lawford? This guy,
yeah.
Guy looks like works at a fucking Wiener Schnitzel.
Yeah. That's funny because you said that, because this is the picture I'm looking at of him. Looks like he's selling ice cream on the fucking outside the baseball stadium. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, anyways, so
he's got those Joe Biden eyes too. I'm telling you, dude.
So the housekeeper wakes up at 3:00 in the morning, and she notices, like, she just randomly wakes up, used the bathroom or something, and she sees that her light is still on in Monroe's bedroom at 3:30 in the morning.
You say 3. I heard it was 12.
Okay, so this is the official story, Malcolm.
Well, that was the official story in the book I read.
Okay, this is the official story according to
Josh.
No, according to the Leeming 1998 report and Strasburg versus Odyssey Group Inc. Lawsuit. So this is the official story of what, legally speaking, what was told, right?
Okay. I could see that.
So at approximately 3:30 in the morning on Sunday. That's also nice with when you're reading on Wikipedia, you can literally like click the link to see if it's bullshit. Like, I didn't say like for sure. I clicked on like, let me see, is it like some bullshit magazine article? And it's like, no, it's from a lawsuit.
Ice cream shirt says.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, she telephones the psychiatrist, who says, go in there and look at her. And when she walks in, she's face down on the bed, covered by a sheet and clutching the telephone, right? So Greenson comes to the house, rushes to the house. They enter the room. They had to break a window to like get in there, and she's dead right away. So they call a doctor. A doctor arrives at the house around 4 a.m. and confirms the death at 4:25 is the first time the police are notified. The coroner ends up coming in. He does the autopsy. It says that she died of acute barbiturate poisoning, and she had 8% chloral hydrate and 4.5% pentobarbital in her
coroner
blood.
said this?
Yes, this is the toxicology analysis. The cause of death was acute barbiturate poisoning. So she had 8% chloral hydrate and 4.5% pentobarbital, which is about 20 times the lethal limit, right?
But what you're leaving out is what they said. Like,
can I get to it? Can I get to it, Malcolm? Can I fucking get to it? Can I fucking get to it, Malcolm? Yeah. Jesus Christ!
I don't know. Can you?
Yeah. So that's what the toxicology.
This guy's acting like a bitch.
So they do the toxicology report. It comes back that she had a shitload of pentobarbital in her system, right? Like I said, it was 20 times the lethal dosage. She had, in the newspaper article, she's found nude in bed, hand on the phone, took 40 pills. That's from the New York Mirror. That's like
leg straight.
So the interesting thing is that when they opened her stomach, right? But by the way, when they credit to what you said, when they found her body, she was in an advanced state of rigor mortis, which means that she probably died around 8:00. They're like from how long she had been sitting there. And they also think that maybe they waited a little while to call the police, which was interesting. But if you think this is a suicide, which a lot of people do, this is where things get dicey, right?
No.
So she had this.
Way.
So she had this pill bottle of this pentobarbital, right? But the problem is that when they found the empty bottles next to her bed, there was no signs of external wounds or bruises on her body for like track marks. So like, okay, so she didn't shoot it up, so she must have taken it orally. Well, when they looked at her
stomach
and her mouth, she didn't have any of the like, I forget what it's called, but it's like a chalky residue from the pill. There was none of that in her esophagus,
in her stomach,
and nothing in her stomach. And that's what they said. Like, there's no way her body could have digested 40 of those pentobarbital, right?
The detective that showed up also, like, he was questioning everybody in the room, and he's like, they were searching the whole house for a glass of water because, like, how do you take?
There was no water in the entire
40 pills, and there's no water in the room.
This is the other thing. They're like, the only way that she could have, like, the only way her body could have, like, taken it like this is if she took all 40 in one gulp with no water. Okay. It also seemed that there was no suicide note. The final report, and then we'll get into the conspiracies. The official story is that it was an accidental suicide from a psychiatric disturbance. So basically, she just was depressed and had these weird fears, and she had mood swings and blah, 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 blah. She had sleep disturbances, symptoms of disorganization, and then she was taking sedative drugs for many years. She got confused, took the wrong ones, and ended up taking a shitload of pentobarbital on accident. She took that's the part I can't overcome here. It's one thing if it's like, oh, I accidentally took like 10 of a pill, like, because I was so fucked up, I forgot, and I started taking them, like drug addicts or people that are really on drinking alcohol. It's easy to get confused. And some of these drugs make you forget shit. You know what I mean? So I get that.
Yeah.
But to take 40 pentobarbital means she took every pill that was in the bottle. There was none left when they got there. No matter how fucked up you are, you shouldn't take the last one because that means you went through 39. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the only way it would have to have been, I don't think it could have been an accidental overdose. She either killed herself, which I don't believe, or she was murdered. So, like I said,
why would she be murdered?
It seems like there's a lot of evidence pointing to that. So let's get into the conspiracy theory. So first of all, she died. Everyone was real fucking upset about it, but almost immediately, these conspiracy theories started popping out. So the first one is that she was ordered by anti-communist Frank A. Capel, because he came out with this book in 1964 that claimed that her death was part of a communist conspiracy. And basically what we kind of talked about already, that the Kennedy affair was kind of set up. They all set that up for the scandal to try to get break Kennedy's credit, accusing Kennedy of being a communist sympathizer. That was like the whole thing. They wanted to paint her as a communist and then be like, look, he's dating this communist. You know what I mean? Having an affair with this communist.
But she wasn't a communist.
But she wasn't. So remember earlier I was saying she was investigated for being a communist. It seems like that there was this plan that she was just a pawn in to try to discredit the president and discredit her, right? So that seems real. But the motive for them to kill her doesn't make a lot of sense. Because that's one of the theories is that these communists.
So who do you think killed her?
We're gonna get to that. So
no, you tell me now.
So this allegation was that this guy Frank A. Capel, there was this conspiracy.
Who is this A. Capel?
I just said he wrote this book called The Strange Death of Marilyn Monroe.
I know. I heard you.
He's an anti-communist activist.
He wasn't in the book that I read. So I don't care what you say.
So, anyways, that was. So the conspiracy is that she was being painted as a communist on purpose to discredit the president. And then there was, pulling the KGB and shit were pulling the strings from behind, and she was just a pawn. But the problem is, why would they have to kill her then? Because she had no idea about it. She wasn't in on it. Why the fuck? She didn't have any information that was pertinent to these things. And on top of that, remember that black book I told you about?
Yeah. It was right.
Originally, I thought that maybe RFK or JFK had her killed to get that book of information. But years later, when they went through all of her stuff at an auction, that diary was still there. No one took it.
No. See, that's where we differ. Okay. I think he did kill her.
Okay, well, I'm not saying he didn't, but part of it was they thought the RFK. There is speculation that he was there that night that she died. That he was. Yeah. Well, there's no guarantee. There's no proof that he was at her apartment, but there was proof that he was in that town.
Oh yeah, there is.
Yeah. So we'll get to that. So let's see. She was in Brentwood, California when she died. So RFK was.
Yo, isn't that where
OJ killed his wife?
Yeah.
So anyway, so that was the widespread conspiracy in the 60s was that she was a communist, right? And that there's a communist conspiracy. I'm just telling Malcolm, I'm just rolling through the fucking conspiracy. Can you calm down? Keep your dick in your pants.
No.
I know we're talking about Marilyn Monroe, but
this lady packed parachutes for the soldiers, okay? You gonna tell me she's a communist? Why didn't she just pack those fucking parachutes wrong, huh?
So here's the one that you were talking about. In the 70s, Norman Mailer wrote this book, Marilyn, a biography, and in the book he wrote that there's evidence. Mailer repeated the claim that Monroe and R.F. Kennedy had an affair and speculated she was killed by either the FBI or the CIA, who wanted to use her murder as a point of pressure against the Kennedys. Basically, like, look, we can get to her, we can get to anybody, right? But even in his own book at the very end, he said it was 10-1 that it was an accidental suicide. There was a couple other books, The Life and Curious Death of Marilyn Monroe.
She did OD 2 other times.
Yeah, she did.
Wild.
They also made like a soft in 1975. They made a soft porn of her death.
Just think about how lucky you have to be to OD in the 50s and 60s. Like,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like, there's no cell phones. You just got to hope you're doing drugs around somebody who's gonna like call a doctor to come pump your stomach. It's fucking nuts.
So this is now, I would say, the most accepted or whatever theory. So in the 2000s, John Miner alleged that it was not a suicide. He published manuscripts that said that there was, she had recorded audio tapes, and she claimed that she gave the tapes to the psychiatrist, Greenson. And on the tapes, she spoke of plans of the future as proof that she wouldn't have killed herself, right? She discussed her sex life and the use of enemas. Okay, so you ready for this? And he believes...
I'm sure that's what he said.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you ready for this? So enemas are not widely used as they used to be back in the 50s and 60s, but it's basically a way you shove a suppository up your ass, and it's supposed to like be like a cleanse.
You're trying to say they're not used a lot now?
Not as much as they used to be. They used to be used for a hangover cure. Like, you had a hangover, just take an enema. You know what I mean? So they still get used now, obviously.
Tell you what, you take an enema, bro, you're not going to be thinking about no hangover.
So they think that the housekeeper, who was KGB spy, put the enema up her ass filled with the pentobarbital. That would explain why there was no pills in her stomach, why there was no pill residue in her body. That would explain why there was no track marks.
Is it weird that makes her hotter?
It just slid right in. You know? Oh, it's fucked up. And even the hand motion I did there was sketchy. Yeah. So this was all on transcripts.
Different kind of glove for that one.
Yeah. So that, and they think that there was one other possibility that she was murdered by RFK because of
definitely
the Bay of Pigs invasion, and she had too much information on that, and she might have been the one that actually got that info out, which is, there's not a lot of evidence for that.
I didn't know about that, but they didn't bring that up in what I read.
Yeah, there's not a lot of evidence for that, but it is one of the things that's been, brought up, that maybe she was the reason that information got out, and that he had to kill her, or they were going to kill him, and that he went about basically trying to handle this problem. She was just giving too much of a problem. She was giving everyone issues.
That's where I lay is like I think Hoover pressed RFK, and it was like, this bitch is a loose end.
Yeah,
either kill her, or I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure Hoover said that. But
I was going to say, before you even get to that, there's documentation that Hoover already had that same exact conversation with JFK. It was like, what are we doing here? Like, why is this fucking actress getting all this information? What are you guys doing? You guys are blowing it right now. I'm going to take you to court and get you arrested. So that conversation that you're saying may have happened with RFK, he already had that kind of conversation with JFK. So it's not far-fetched to believe what you're saying. So continue.
Yeah. So also, one of the crazy things too, that book I read it starts out.
What's the name of the book so we can shout it out?
The Last Days of Marilyn Monroe.
Okay.
So she it's a short one. It's literally just they go through her life. They kind of jostle back and forth between her life and like they start with the original crime scene, the original story, and then they jostle back and forth between her life and like the prevailing details.
Mm-hmm.
But basically So yeah, the original thing, she was in the house, and they found her there at. From what I heard, from what the book says, not even heard, but the book. I mean, I guess I did hear because it's an audible book. But is that they told the police that they had found her at 12 o'clock, but they didn't call the police till 4:30. So there's like this window of like 4 hours. Like, what the fuck happened? They broke the window because they said they couldn't get in the room. Yeah. And they had a guy come over and fix the window in between that time, which is just bananas.
Yeah. Well, they said they were worried about it. The story for that was they were worried about disrupting the crime scene.
Yeah.
They wanted to make sure nothing blew away or something.
So what really kicked everything open about the conspiracy and that it was all wrong is that the housekeeper who was part of the KGB with the psychiatrist, they were on the same team, is that in 1976 or 74, she did this interview and there was a hot mic, and she's like, "This is ridiculous that I have to keep
lying about this." Yeah.
Keep it lying about this secret. So, and this is what shows you how powerful the government is. You know, like even this day and age when people say conspiracies are fake and shit, is she ended up admitting that, she had died at, like what you said, 8 or 9 o'clock, and that the police and ambulance showed up and tried to revive her. And basically the cops that showed up, the detective was part of like, you know, some deep government agency, and they made them all leave. And then, you know, 6 hours later, they call the cops and like, she committed suicide.
Yeah.
What people don't know is that the housekeeper had said that Bobby Kennedy showed up earlier that day, and they were talking in the guest house.
Yeah.
And basically, they think
that's all speculation. There is proof that he was in California, though. So,
well, okay, so he gets pulled over for speeding. Him and Ralph Greenson, which is weird. Yeah. Like, that's what I don't understand. It's like,
that's what I was trying to tell you. That's what I was trying to tell you earlier. There's a lot of speculation that his strings were being pulled by Kennedy's to begin with, and they were.
That's what I didn't know.
They were having the psychiatrist just tell her, like, they're like, tell her to do this. Tell her that she should stop seeing, because she really confided in this guy, and he abused that privilege.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean,
bro. She bought that house because it was only a couple houses down from him.
Yeah, like he was he was her confidant, best friend. She confided everything in him. And he definitely abused that privilege and that information. So it does seem like, it's not proven, but it does seem like the Kennedys were pulling the strings, and they're like, "Hey, tell her this, tell her that," to get her to do whatever they want.
So that night, that dude gets pulled over, driving the car that RFK's in, and he's in the car with RFK after the murder in LA, and he's supposed to be in like another state or some shit like that. So it is all very suspect, and the book literally ends like the last sentence of the book is like, Bobby Kennedy killed Marilyn Monroe. That's what they say. Like, so I mean,
is that what you believe? You think that Robert Kennedy killed her?
That's my synopsis. I think he did kill her.
So I could see that. I think that there's the two most plausible theories to me are that either the CIA, FBI, or RFK, one of those groups took her out. She was just too much of a risk. Like, we got to get rid of her, right? Or it was just an accidental suicide and her body, or accidental overdose, where her body just, like, she had such a high tolerance that she was taking them so slow throughout the day. You know what I mean? And that it just took a while to kill her.
For me, suicide's completely out.
I don't think it was suicide either. I don't think she intentionally killed herself. And I think it is. Let's see. Is it officially considered a suicide?
Mm-hmm. They never changed the death certificate.
Yeah, you're right. Suicide.
Dude, that decade is so nuts.
Yeah, verdict was probable suicide on the corners.
Marilyn Monroe, JFK, RFK, MLK. Anybody with a K, anybody with a K at the end of the day fucking died, dude. KKK, fucking. I think Malcolm X was killed during, or maybe the next decade.
No, that was it was 70s. That was 70s. It was after JFK. Because Malcolm died after JFK. So. Having
that said, if the forces that be did show up at like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock that night, and they were able to get them all to leave and shit, and just think about, like, there's no cell phones, there's no computers, and these motherfuckers got tabs on everyone.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, that should just show you the power of the CIA and shit. And the FBI.
What was JFK was 63, right?
1963, November 22nd.
Yeah. And then, so Malcolm X was 65. And Martin Luther King, I want to say, was like 61 or 62.
Bang, 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 bang.
Oh, shit. He died after Malcolm X. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with the last one.
And Lyndon B. Johnson, who was a racist, passed the fucking Civil Rights Act.
All right, let's move on to the next one. So we're gonna do one more, and then we're gonna break this into two parts. It'll be the end of part one after this one here. So let's do the short one. Let's do Brittney Murphy.
So you're gonna have to school me on this. I don't know shit about. I mean, I know who Brittney Murphy is. If there's any young viewers, which apparently there's not, because it's all our demo.
Yeah.
So you probably don't know unless you've seen 8 Mile. You probably don't know.
I mean, no, younger audience wouldn't know who Brittney Murphy is. Brittney Murphy.
That's what I said.
Oh, okay.
That's what I said.
Yeah. Oh, you finally get to use that, huh? Congratulations. How's it feel? So this one, like I said, we'll do quick, and then we'll get out of here, and then we'll jump into the other ones on the next episode. So Brittney Murphy, she had a con man boyfriend named Simon Monjack, right? He was in like the film industry. So you might know Brittney Murphy. She was in the movie Clueless. She was in the movie 8 Mile. She was in tons of different movies. Riding in Cars with Boys.
Oh, she was in Clueless.
Yeah, she was like the dumb chick, and she played like the dumb chick.
Yeah,
she kind of played that blonde bombshell thing. She kind of did that.
Oh, this guy's pathetic. He looks like a.
Oh, so listen. So his name is Simon
Harvey
Monjack.
Weinstein's son.
Hey, don't look into it. Don't look into it because I want you to be surprised. Okay. So yeah, he's not a good looking dude. He looks like a schlub, right? If you look up schlub in the dictionary, it's like his picture.
Schlep.
Yeah. So his name's Simon Monjack, and he was a con man. And literally around Hollywood, they would call him Simon Conjack because he fucking conned people, right? And he was the kind of dude that would be like, he would borrow like $5,000, and then it'd be like, "Hey Simon, where's the money?" or whatever, and he'd be like, when it was time to pay, and he goes, "Well, I don't have it right now, but you know what's cooler than $5,000? $10,000. You give me another $5,000, and I'll give you $10,000 back." Like that's the kind of guy he was. He could just talk his way out of fucking anything. So here's the fucking picture of this guy, so you guys can get an idea of how fucking schlubby this guy was. I mean, look at this. Like, what are we doing here? Yeah. And this is Brittney
Harvey
Murphy.
Weinstein's son.
Yeah, he was schlubby looking. So, anyhow, Brittney Murphy was going through a phase in her career where she wasn't quite as popular as she used to be. She wanted to get paid more. She, had all these issues. She had a bunch of issues growing up too with her parents. Her parents were like kind of split, and her mom was kind of like this crazy, controlling woman. And it was like that relationship where the mom and daughter were best friends. Like not like best friends, like how you would say, "Oh, my mom's my best friend." No, it was like, hey mom, I fucked this guy last night, and blah blah, like that kind of best friend relationship. You know what I mean? Like weird fucking closeness with her mom, right?
Some kind of weird porn category.
Yeah, exactly. Seriously. So at some point, it comes out that she's having this issue with cocaine, Xanax, and Adderall, where she's taking just this mixture of fucking drugs, right? I think she had like not an overdose, but she got had to rush to the hospital because she's having heart problems, right?
Sounds like a well-balanced diet to me.
Yeah. Sounds like a nice Saturday afternoon. So anyways, so she ends up buying Britney Spears' old mansion in LA for $3.5 million, right? So she moves in this gigantic mansion, and then she moves her mom into this mansion. And then a few weeks later, she's dating this guy, Simon Monjack. He's like, "Hey, do you think I can move into your mansion with you?" And she was like, "Yeah, I guess we're dating or whatever." So she comes to. So the three of them live there. Brittney Murphy's mom, Simon Monjack.
So wait, what was his cover? An investor or just like
he was like he had financial ties, or not financial ties.
He was like, "I'm an investor."
No. He had ties to like the movie industry. Like, I can get you in this movie. I can get you this movie made. So that's why people would give him money. Like, you give me $10,000, I'll pitch.
That's good in LA, baby.
I know, exactly. Like you give me $10,000, I'll pitch your movie to the studio I have a good relationship with, and we'll get your movie made. And then the movie never gets made. And they're like, "Where's that money?"
Money to be made.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's all he was though. He had like no money to his name. He was just a con man. And that's actually how he met Brittney Murphy. Is she wanted to get this movie made, and he was like, "Hey, I can make that happen for you." That movie never got made, and instead he ended up moved out there. So they're moved in for a while, and then he proposes the idea that they should get married, so that he can have power of attorney in case something happens, because she was having these health issues, right? So they end up getting married. They move in there, like I told you, Britney Spears' $3.5 million mansion, right? So one day, she was having trouble sleeping. She was having like these weird sleeping things, and she was telling her mom about these sleeping things. She just felt weak, right? And she passes out on the balcony, and they call the ambulance. Or no, sorry, they don't call an ambulance. they believe that she's fine. She's just exhausted or whatever, right? So a few hours go by. They put her in bed. They think that she's fine. The next morning they wake up and she's basically dead in the bed. So they call. At this point, the mom calls the Los Angeles Fire Department at 8 a.m. They show up to a medical request, and she's just dead. She's dead in the bathroom, right? They attempt to resuscitate her. No chance. Declared dead at 8:04 after going into cardiac arrest, right? Apparently, they say at the time the death was natural. She had some kind of like a pneumonia or something, and people didn't know about it. But guess what? When they did so they want to do a toxicology report. The mom and the husband say that no, you're not cutting her open. We don't want to do an autopsy. It was natural causes. She's fine. We don't want to.
What?
Yeah. So, like, well, that's weird, right? So, in this interview with Simon Monjack, he said they asked him why. Like, why wouldn't you want to know why your wife's dead? And he goes, well, and this is a direct quote. I went in there and looked at her laying there with her pristine body, all curvy in all the right places. And I just thought it'd be a shame for them to cut her open. It's like, what, dude? What are you talking about?
Yeah. I guess it could be worse.
Yeah. So
he could be like, you know what? Cut her open.
yeah. He's like, you know what? I changed my mind. Yeah. So he was a weird fucking guy. So I wouldn't put it past him. So they look at it. So there seems to be some stuff though. When the coroners are looking at her, they're like, all right, it looks like she either had a cold or some kind of respiratory infection, but that shouldn't have killed her. Like it shouldn't have been severe enough that it should have killed her, right? So they're like, we got to do this autopsy. So if it turns out for the mom to get the money, they have to do some, jump some hoops to do this autopsy or whatever. So they end up doing it. When they do it, she had elevated levels of hydrocodone, acetaminophen, methamphetamine,
She was taking a lot of Vicodin.
Yep. She also was taking methamphetamines, which is the Adderall. She also had cocaine in her system, massive amounts of alcohol. And she seemed to be in a weakened state. Basically, all of the drugs together, plus the alcohol, and she had pneumonia is what killed her, right? Allegedly. So she's been in December of 2009, she's buried in Hollywood Hills. Everybody's real sad about it, right? The mom, they do the interview with the mom. She's real weird. They're like, why didn't you call the ambulance the night before when she was feeling sick? And like, well, this happened before. She's been struggling with these demons, blah, 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 blah. So here's where it starts to get even weirder. After her death, the estate goes to the mom. Or no, I'm sorry, it goes to Simon Monjack, right? But guess what? He doesn't have the mom move out. The mom and Simon Monjack now live together in Britney Spears' old mansion. Okay?
To this
Are you with
day?
me? No, just after the death of Brittney Murphy.
Okay.
So for a few days or a few weeks, it'd just be like, okay, they're just grieving. Well, no, they stayed there long term. They just live together now.
Yeah, I mean,
and about just wait. So about
serial killer vibes to me.
Yeah. Well, 5 months later, guess what happens? Simon Monjack is found dead at the Hollywood Hills residence under the same circumstances.
Ooh.
He has pneumonia and severe anemia, and they can't figure out what's going on with him.
COVID.
And they can't figure out what's going on with him. And this time they're like, all right, 2 people died the exact same way within 5 months of each other. Something fishy is going on in this fucking house, right? So guess what? They start investigating. Guess what there's
methamphetamine in the water supply.
You're not that far off.
Oh, shit.
So the first thing they find is 90 prescription full bottles of prescription drugs. 90 full. They found 672 pills scattered throughout the house, okay, of different hydrocodone, oxycodone, methamphetamine.
I want to be rich
whatever.
So bad.
What the fuck is chlorophenamine? I don't know what that is. That's another like drug, I guess.
Bleach and fucking Adderall? I don't know.
So they have shit all over the house. So this is what happened, right? They start looking at the pill bottles. Like, how did they get these many pills, right? The mom was going to like all these different doctors and was like, what do they call it? Doctor shopping or whatever, where you go to one doctor and you're like, oh, my back hurts. You go to another doctor. Oh, yeah, before they had the thing for it. The shoulder hurts. And then guess what? She had 7 different names she was using. And one of them was, her name was Sharon. Her name was Sharon Murphy. One of the pill bottles said Sharon Monjack. She had a fake identity where she had his last name, her daughter's husband's last name, right? So now they're thinking, what the fuck is going on? Is this guy, are they banging? Is he banging the mom? So it comes out that she was sleeping in the same bed as him. So it seems like they did have some kind of sexual relationship, okay? So she decides, now that she is now the sole beneficiary of the estate, now she decides now.
The mom of the dude.
No, the mom of Brittney Murphy. It went Brittney Murphy, Simon Monjack, and now Sharon Murphy.
Oh, I thought you said, he's living with Brittney Murphy's mom?
Yes, they all lived in the same house.
Oh, I thought you said his mom.
No. Brittney Murphy's mom. Because remember I told you they had that weird relationship where she was like, Mom, I fucked this guy last night. And she was like, oh, that sounds so good. How big was his dick? That's like the weird relationship.
I didn't think that connection could be made. I'm like, what? That's fucking bizarre.
So they all lived in the same house, and that's what I'm saying. So she even had pill bottles. His last name was Monjack. Her name was Sharon Murphy, but she had pill bottles under the name Sharon Monjack. So she had a fake identity under his name. They were sleeping in the same bed together. So they might have had like this weird relationship, and then he dies the same way 5 months later. So now she's the sole.
What's Murphy's backstory with her mom? I know they had a weird relationship, but what was the? I mean, obviously that's detrimental just to begin with, being that close to your mother. I mean. Did she have like an abusive stepfather? Like, what's the deal there?
So as time went on, let's finish up with this part and then we'll get to that. So she tries to sell the house, Britney Spears' mansion, because she's like, it's too much space. I just need to get rid of it, right? And when she tries to sell the house, there's an issue. When they inspect it to put it on the market, there's mold all over the house, right? So
the water supply.
Yeah. So apparently it was inspected a few months before, and she signed off, that Sharon, whatever her name was, signed off, Sharon Murphy, or Monjack, however you look at it, she signed off on some lawsuit to get the money for Brittney Murphy's estate, saying that whatever, I'm not going to sue about this, whatever the stipulation was in the lawsuit, that the mold thing wouldn't come into play, right? So she knew about the mold months before. So for some reason, maybe she like just didn't tell anybody about it, but that doesn't make sense.
I got a water bottle right here.
So Malcolm left us. So basically, I know you can hear me. They go to sell the house, and the mold thing happens, and they don't know what to do, and she ends up getting this weird claim. So then Simon Monjack's mom ends up looking into this, and turns out that for a while she knew he was sick and he was having issues with drugs, and she was worried about him. So she kept calling Brittney Murphy's mom and was like, hey, will you keep an eye on my son? Will you check in, make sure he's okay? And she seemed to disregard that. Also, same instance with him. The night before, he may have passed out. No one called the ambulance. No one called the police. Didn't find till the morning when he was dead. Now, Brittney Murphy's dad was a man by the name of Angelo Bertolotti. And he claimed that there was antimony and barium poisoning in Brittney Murphy and Simon Monjack. And he wanted an independent investigation done because he thinks that Sharon Monjack was poisoning them. Because if it was the mold, then why didn't she get sick? And if it was the drugs, why didn't she get sick? If it was pneumonia, why didn't she get, they're living in such close proximity. If one person gets something, everyone's going to get it. But she comes out of this nice and peachy, you know what I mean? So he claims that she was a psychopath, and the reason that he wasn't in Brittney Murphy's life was because she wouldn't let him. She tried to poison him when they were younger, and that's why he got away from her. And she always kept like these weird barium pills and stuff on her that was supposed to be for like gophers. Like
barium.
It's like a poison, like a
an element.
It's an element, yeah. But I think it's supposed to kill like lawn animals. Like you put it in your dirt and it kills like gophers and shit.
I like to put a little in my cereal.
I don't know. It's all very, very bizarre, and I'm not really sure how.
I forgot how hot Brittney Murphy was.
Yeah, sorry about that. My headphones died. We're having all kinds of technical difficulties. It's been a tough episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he thinks that he poisoned her. Who knows what really happened? But it's a lot of sketchy shit. I tend to believe that it was just drugs. People doing drugs. People doing stupid shit. But I could see Sharon Murphy.
I don't think it's nefarious.
I think it's neglectful. I think that they should have called the ambulance sooner. I think that they were going down paths that was dangerous to their body and to their, health. And I think the mom just kind of let it happen, which is fucked up. I'm not sure she killed them, but I could see it. It's possible. It's possible.
I forgot she was in Sin City. God, that was such a good movie.
And she was good in Sin City too.
Yeah, she was really good. That was like the peak too, and then she was dead.
I know. And it's funny because we were just talking about that she it seemed like that she just hadn't got to that superstardom yet. You know what I mean? She was just like in some good stuff.
She was approaching it. She kept getting like more and more beautiful. Her acting was getting better.
Yeah.
She was getting in bigger movies, and then
she also had this. So
what's her real hair color?
I think it's like brown.
All these photos are just like it's literally every different color.
Oh, well, it's also part of it is that she that Simon Monjack guy, he looked all schlubby or whatever. But the reason that all happened was
how does that happen?
Is she was dating all these other actors and celebrities, and they kept like cheating on her and dumping her and breaking her heart. So she was like, I'll just go get this guy that is a step I'm gonna let him outcook his coverage a little bit.
Yeah, that's why I used to bang fat chicks too.
Oh boy.
I'm just kidding.
No, you're not.
I still bang fat chicks.
All right, so there's a little so we ended up going a little bit deeper than we wanted to on these topics. We went about an hour and 40 minutes on these three. So I think we're going to stop here for part one. This part, if you're listening to this now, thank you for listening this far. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at @scam_podcast on Twitter and Instagram. Podcastscam@gmail.com. Sorry, we've both been drinking and we're a little bit drunk. Podcastscam@gmail.com to email us. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Do it right now. Go on Instagram, go on Twitter @scam_podcast. Follow us there. So we're gonna see you guys later, but really we're about to just pause this and then we're gonna record the second half. And then you'll see that next week. So stay on for that. And then tomorrow night and Friday, we will have our new episode of the Scam series, episode 13 or whatever, will be out tomorrow as well. So keep an eye on that. A lot going on. Mentally broken, physically exhausted, still trucking, still rolling.
Sexually accosted. No.
Oh, boy. Yeah. I fucking wish, brother.
Yeah. But, let me tell you something.
But so for the next episode, we didn't even get to like the real meat and potatoes of what we're trying to talk about. On the next episode, we're gonna have.
What are we trying to talk about?
I just think that the ones we did weren't really like that mysterious. I guess the Marilyn Monroe is a little bit, but the ones that we're gonna do next week are Jimi Hendrix, Bruce Lee, Princess Diana, and I guess maybe we'll touch on Natalie Wood. Oh, and Kurt Cobain. I got the Nirvana shirt. I wore the Nirvana shirt, and we didn't even fucking talk about it.
Fucked up. Yeah, you fucked up.
Don't worry, I'll wear it again. I'll wear it again. But we'll talk about those in the next one, so I hope you guys enjoy that. And if you have any questions or information, or you want to know more, or you have more info, or you have a conspiracy of your own, send it in, and we'll talk about it. Otherwise, we'll see you guys later. Anything else, Malcolm?
Fuck you.
Sounds good. See you later.